4 years ago, on the first Sunday of November 2017, I stepped into ministry here in Tampa with this community. I had been serving as the assistant minister in a very large center in Atlanta with a big staff. So I knew I had a lot to learn. I had a lot to learn. I was joining you here in community with an open heart and a lot of skills, but I knew there was some healing and trust building that I needed to do here and some growth that I needed to have. So since it is the first Sunday in November again, I want to do what I've done for the past two first Sundays in November. And I want to talk about, what we've learned in spiritual community over the past year. I'm going to talk about what I've learned, and I'm anxious to see on your little papers what you've learned too. So right before we get to that part, Lori will collect those, but finish them if you need to. But so this talk is about the lessons that we've learned during this trip around the sun, this trip around the spiral staircase that I talked about so much this year. And the view just keeps getting better and better as we rise. And so my talk title today is Taking in the View. Taking in the View. I want to tell you about an analogy that the prolific writer and spiritual teacher Carolyn Mace uses, and it's a really, really great analogy for this lesson. And she talks about life being like living in a high-rise building. And when you think about living in a high-rise, let's go to New York, let's go to the biggest city, right? And there's a high-rise there, and if you're living on the first floor, think about the traffic. Think about the congestion and the noise on the first floor. The garbage trucks are coming and going, and the ambulance are going by, and all of that. And there's a lot of congestion and frustration and chaos on the first floor of the building. But the higher you rise, what happens when you go up in the building? Just one floor up, and the noise is less. You're less involved in the comings and goings and the congestion of everything. And as you go up and up, you get a better view. You understand that the traffic may be stopped right in front of the building, but you can see where it came from, and you can see where it's going, and you can see how it's tangled right there. You understand what's happening. The banging that you hear is actually the dumpsters being, emptied or whatever. You can understand more about what's going on the first level. You're still living at the same address. You're still there, but you're going up and you have a better and better perspective about life. You're not in the middle of the chaos. Therefore, you have access to more peace, more quiet, more joy, more love. You're just in a more expansive state of mind. So can you relate to that? And do you see how the analogy works really lovely with spirituality? Because when we come here for the first time, or when you begin to look at your life and say, I want to rise spiritually, you are often in the middle of some chaos. I know, I greet you when you first come in, right? You're in a little bit of a mess usually. But as you learn more about who you really are, you rise. So the question is, how do I rise? How do we rise? We rise by learning higher truths about ourselves. We rise by touching that part inside of us that's connected to the divine, that is spiritual in nature. We arise when we are willing to look at our life experiences from a higher point of view. Right? And we move away from feeling like a victim of everything in the middle of all the traffic until we can be in self-love and realize I'm responsible for what floor of the building I live on. I'm responsible for that, and I want to move towards higher self-love and higher empowerment, right? And every situation we encounter gives us the opportunity to make a new choice and to rise up another level. When we learn, we rise. When we heal, we rise. When we connect, we rise. When we love, we rise. So I just want you to keep pushing that elevator button, right? We have to go within. You don't rise on the outside of the building, you rise on the inside of the building. And you go in and you press the button and you look and you say, how high do I want to rise, right? I want to share a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson from his essay, Self-Reliance. someday I'm going to teach an Emerson class. I promise. I've been promising it for 4 years, but I really am going to do it someday. But at any rate, he says, prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. Isn't that a lovely definition of prayer? Prayer is thinking about life from the highest point of view. So these past 12 months have been full of lessons for me as a minister and for us as a community. And I try to be in constant prayer as Emerson defines it. I'm trying to constantly take the highest point of view in all things, especially in my lessons. And here is what I know. This year, my lessons boil down to the word faith. Faith. Faith is a belief in something not yet seen. You've heard that definition. Faith is holding on, knowing that a solution is coming in the right and perfect time. Acting as if that solution is here, preparing as if the solution is here, that what you desire will come into form, will come into your experience. That's faith. So my white stone word, if you've not been around our community, on the first Sunday in January, we all write down a white stone word, a word for our year. And my white stone word this year was the word reclamation. Reclamation, that's what I wrote. Because I felt as we closed out 2020, and I don't know about you, but in 2020, a lot of things kind of just drifted out of my life, right? All of the upheaval and the loss of 2020. I thought 2021 would be a really good year to start reclaiming our sense of community, but also some things in my own personal life. Let's reclaim things. And I entered this year with faith that reclamation would be our experience, and it certainly has been, and Friday night was a prime example. So we knew as a board our 10th anniversary was coming. Well, 10 years ago, actually, we knew that, but about 2 years ago, I began to think, okay, 10th anniversary is coming in March of 2021. That'll be our 10th anniversary. And the board had been discussing the 10th anniversary before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hits, and we knew we couldn't plan an event in March. There just was no way. We just didn't have enough clearance in COVID at the time. So we just said, we'll reclaim it towards the end of the year. And we went forth in faith that by November 5th, we would be okay, that we could do an event that turned out to be so beautiful. Faith inspired us to move forward in our planning. We acted as if, and boy, did we reclaim, right? We did it. But the big thing that my faith taught me this year is that a shared vision is powerful. So earlier this year, we created a vision, if you were here, we created a vision of growth and expansion and vitality, a shared vision. And so many people had not yet returned from the pandemic precautions. They really hadn't. And I was not the only minister kind of grappling with how do we welcome people back? How do we get a sense of community around us again? But what we did here was we turned to spirit. We turned to spiritual practices and knowing, right? We set our shared vision and our intention, and we just kept moving forward in faith. We just kept moving forward. This year taught me to keep holding an intention firm, holding a shared vision firm, and watching it unfold, trusting God's sources and timing and all of that. So I learned that when you stand in a shared vision, when you stand in an intention, the people that you need around you, the people that share your vision, begin to circle tighter and tighter to you. And that is what happened. And our vision was furthered. Some of you entered this community for the first time in 2021. You are a part of the manifestation of our shared vision. And Friday night, we celebrated a shared vision that had been held in the minds of many people for 10 years. And that taught me as well that a shared vision is powerful. So as we continue on our path into 2022, we're going to continue to share visions together as a community of what do we become, what do we aspire to be. The other thing that my faith taught me this year was that I have an inner knowing. We all do. We all do. I learned that growth and vitality is found when we listen to our inner truth and nothing else. When we listen inside ourselves, when we're living in the faith of our own connection to the divine intelligence of the all, we move away from things. We move away from things that cause us disappointment, discomfort, pain, discontent. When we're feeling those things and we're listening to our inner knowing, we move toward greater joy, greater love, greater contentment, greater satisfaction. Because if we stay somewhere in the middle of discontent, in the middle of disappointment or pain, then we are not listening to our inner voice and we will die. We will atrophy and that situation will die. Ernest Holmes teaches, and you've heard this before, love points the way and the law makes the way possible. This year, I learned to have faith that love is always pointing the way inside of me. When I look within, when I go into that inner part of the building and get in my own elevator, I follow love in the right direction. And my good is correlated to your good. So when I'm following my love, everyone benefits. So I followed my inner knowing this year. And I leaned into some of my favorite topics this year. We explored radical self-love. We explored living this philosophy. We explored raising our consciousness by changing our thinking. And we explored good old-fashioned summer camp too, right? We did. I trusted that if I felt strongly about these subjects and I moved towards them, and then others would find value in them as well. And I truly learned, because we had the most successful year of classes that we've ever had. We taught 48 different students this year registering in classes. That's a big number compared to how many are in the room. That's because when you move towards what you love, others gather around it because you're magnetized. You are raising your vibration, and higher vibration brings things in. And this year, I also learned a big lesson. I learned to have faith and trust that I am simply supposed to love whoever is here. And I invite you to join me in that lesson. Let's always love whoever's here. Whoever's here. Everyone is always in the right place, even on a Sunday morning when I really want you here, but I trust that you're where you're supposed to be if you're not here. And my calling is to love you today and love whoever is here every week. To support those who are coming here to grow and learn now. Now. And my faith is tested on this one, y'all. It is so tested on it. But I have to trust Spirit and keep standing in this truth. The right group of people is always gathering here every week in this beautiful kaleidoscope of love that changes every week. It changes constantly. I used the analogy the other night of a river. You know, and on Friday night I had people stand when they came at different times. It was so interesting to watch the room stand and sit and stand and sit. It was a beautiful wave motion, and that's just the truth of life. The river of people come in and go out and come in and go out. Some people stay in the pool a long time, right? But I'm supposed to stay in the pool and just love who's in the pool, right? So many of you come up to me on a Sunday and you say, Reverend Laine, your talk today was just for me. It was so good for me. And I usually say, my reply is, oh, my lessons are for me. You guys just get to listen, right? But what I should really say is, yes, it was for you because your soul called you here this morning. Your soul called you here and you listened and you came. So thank you for following your heart. I'm glad the lesson was what your soul needed. Faith is just knowing that the right kaleidoscope of love is forming every week. So this morning I invited you to pause, just to breathe in the view of where have you come from this year, what has happened in your life, the expansiveness of growth and development along the way. It's important to stop every now and then and look, where have I come from this year? Because, you know, together we're on this amazing spiral staircase journey together. We're holding hands. And as the year kind of winds down, Take the time to reflect on your own journey. What were your challenges this year? What were your triumphs? What were your opportunities? What were your shifts and changes? What were those pivotal moments for you this year where you grew? You know, how has your perspective and understanding shifted as a result of this year of living? I lived this year, right? So I hope some of you were able to kind of think back this week over that and do your homework that I gave you last Sunday and capture a few things on your piece of paper this morning. So Lori, I invite you to bring them up to me. I've got some up here in this basket too. And what I do is I just go through them. Yay, collect, collect, collect. So I'll share some, first of all, I'll go through and share, I'll just take them here. Share what we've learned, and these are anonymous. If you put your name on them, that's great. I won't out you in your lessons. There you go. Yeah, I'll take it too. Thanks, Derek. I'll share some things that people learned, and then I'll take your questions, and we'll see if we can answer questions too. So hang on, let me get myself in order. So this is really a fun morning for me. So the first one, and I'll start reading and shuffling at the same time. So the first person said, I learned how important it is to show up, even when you have doubtful feelings, how important the CSLTB relationships are, and showing up continues to build a little at a time. I love that one. That's really awesome. This one says, they learned that even with our differences, we're still willing to come together in community, and it's beautiful. I love that too. And then this one says they learned the power of prayer and community. There's a theme going on here. This one says, I've learned how to open up and let go of all the little things. Still working on overcoming the voices of self-doubt, though. Love that. This one says, I can go further with others, faster, but not as successful alone. Fear incarnating love liberates. Fear incarcerates, love liberates. Thank you for helping me read. This one says, I've learned to love and accept myself as I am. I love that too. This one says that it's never too late to heal and learn new things. This one says, I've learned that there are spiritual, open-hearted people in many CSLs. I can have a community in my center I choose to participate in. That's beautiful too. That we really are all the same in that we all need each other and something higher than ourselves to find hope, happiness, and peace. Yeah. This one says, I learned to trust in people again, that good people do exist. So much I've learned on the path to changing my mind and my life. Sorry. This is powerful stuff. I've learned that distance does not interfere with connection. I am a distance member and it works. I've learned love and tolerance. I've learned we are resilient, strong, loving, growing in every way. There is nothing we can't do or be. I've learned resiliency and allowance. I've learned less judgment, more love, live open-hearted. We all fear, we all feel less than. We are very resilient. That word keeps coming up. That's a word, y'all. We need to remember that word. We are resilient and adapted perfectly given the COVID interferences, I think, restrictions. Yeah, we were adaptable. I love that. What have I learned? One crucial thing I learned is that I don't have to suffer, be miserable, or full of fear. I have a choice. I can change. My thoughts change my perspective, and this changes how I feel. I am deeply grateful for this lesson. I've learned so much more about the role choice plays. Okay, that's all the lessons. Give yourselves a hand. Y'all learned a lot. Wow, I really didn't know what was going to be on these. I will cherish these pieces of paper. I cherish them every year.